Okay, so let's have a little look now at our Sage 200 year-end procedure. The first thing we're going to be looking at is actually creating new companies within Sage 200. Now, the reason we're looking at this is because we always recommend that as part of your year-end procedure, you create a new company that's exact replicate of your data as it stands now. So this is done through accounting system administration icon, which you need to have access to. If you don't have access to that, you've not been set up as a system administrator for Sage 200 within your system. So you just need to talk to your IT company to get you set up for that. If I just expand our system administration, this is what the screen will look like as standard. And what we're looking at is on the Companies tab, creating a brand new company for our year-end copy. To do that, we just right-click on the background and we select Add New Company, and we just fill in the relevant details. So it's asking us for a company name. So we tend to call this something meaningful like year-end 2015, whichever year-end you're working on. We browse to our attachments file. So on our laptop, okay, we have Drive C, we have a Sage, and we have an attachments folder. And in there we would create a new folder that's relevant to this particular company name. So we would call it year-end _ 2015, just so that it matches the company name. We select OK to that. It's now asking us for our server settings. The server name will be exactly the same as the server name that you have all your other companies set up on. So you just type in the relevant details. Okay. It's now asking us for a database name, and again we always recommend that the database name reflects your company name, but it has no spaces in there. So in our example here, it would be year-end _ YE _ 2015. It just makes it easier to recognize that database name when you go into SQL, which I'll show you in just a moment, to do your backups and your restore. Okay, so it's asking us to create a new company. It's asking us for the start of the current financial year, which in my example is going to be January 2015. I'm closing down my 2015 accounts, and I just say OK to that. Sage will now go and it will create an empty database within your SQL database. And the plan is that we are now going to look at the SQL database itself. We're going to back up our live company and restore it to our year-end company. Now, this might be something that you may not do yourselves. If you have an IT department within your organization, it's something that they could do. If you have an external IT company, it's something that they could do. But you're certainly more than capable, and if you have the access to the SQL database, you could do it yourselves. So I'm going to say OK to that and just say OK here. It's just confirming that I've pointed my attachments to a Drive C, so it wouldn't be available to other users. I'm going to continue, but in your system you would point it to a network drive. We now have a new company within Sage 200 called year-end 2015. And what I recommend is that we go into the properties of that company, and underneath the members, we just have selected users that can access that particular company. So in our example here, only myself can access that. So maybe I want to add another user, just highlight that user, and that person can now also see that company when they log into Sage 200. It isn't a company that you make readily available to everybody because it's just there as a backup for your own purposes. Okay, so that's actually creating the empty database within Sage 200. Now, before we go into SQL, I'm just going to go into Sage 200 and have a little look at where we are within our accounting periods. So in Sage 200, we have Accounting System Manager and we have accounting periods. If I go to Maintain Accounting Periods, you'll see that we have closed all of our month ends except for month 12 in all of the modules. Now, to be in a place where you're ready to process your year end and where we recommend you take your backup of your live company, we recommend that you close down period 12 for each of the modules except the Nominal Ledger. So I'm just going to highlight our sales month 12, change the period status and say OK to that. It's just running through our month-end procedure for the sales ledger, and it's going to generate a summary report for that module. I'm also going to close down my purchase ledger. Again, it's just producing the report. If you notice, it's also moving deferred postings. This is something we covered last month in the month-end processing. So any transactions that were dated December 2015 from the purchase ledger have now been moved from deferred postings into our current postings file. Cash book, just going to close that module down. And finally, stock module, we're just going to close that module down. Okay, just close down all these reports that it's generated. Okay, back into maintain accounting periods. You'll be able to see now that we've just got the nominal ledger period 12 open, and this is the position that we need you to be in to be ready to process the year end. Okay, so what we need to do is just close down Sage 200, and we're now going to go into the SQL Server management, and we're going to back up our live company and restore it to that new company that we just created. So SQL Server Management Studio, the notes that you have cover all versions of SQL, so 2005, 2008 R2, and 2012. We're working on SQL Server 2012, so it might be slightly different to the version you have, but it's nigh on the same. And as I say, the training notes will actually talk you through each of the versions. Okay, so when we go into SQL, this is what the screen will look like. And what we're wanting to do is expand our databases option, and we can see all the SQL databases that we have created within either Sage or with external databases. What we're looking to do is to back up our live data. So our live data is our Sage 200 demo data. That's what I'm working with. Your live data will have a more meaningful name. It will reflect your company name. Once you've highlighted that particular database, we just right-click on that option. We select Tasks and we select Backup. Okay, now there's a lot of information here. A lot of it is really not relevant, and I'm just going to highlight the areas and the bits and the prompts that we need to change to do our backup. The first thing we have here is the destination. Where do we want to back up to? So we want to back up to disk. We're going to remove any data that's there already, and we're going to add a new backup. It will default to a destination on your disk, and I recommend you just accept that default destination so it's easy to find if you need to restore your data. So within our SQL Server folder, we have a backup folder, and in the file name, we type in a name. So this would be our live company backup.back. Okay, you need to do the .bak at the end just so that SQL will recognize that as a backup file when we come to restore. Just going to say OK to that and OK to that. On the left-hand side here, we have two options. The general options, which we've just put in our destination file. And if we go to options, we just need to tell SQL to overwrite all existing backups. And I like to tick this one here, which is verify the backup when it's finished. You don't have to do that, but it just comes up with a prompt when it's actually completed the backup. If I just say OK to that, you can see at the bottom of the screen here now that it's counting its way through, so you can see the progress of the SQL backup taking place. So once it's got to 100, it just completes the backup, and this is the prompt I was telling you that it's telling us it's completed that backup successfully. Okay, so we've taken a backup of our live data. What we're looking to do now is to restore that data to our year-end company. And there's the year-end company that we just created within Sage 200. So again, we just highlight that company, right-click on the background and select Tasks. But this time we want to restore files and file groups. It's asking us where the database we want to restore to. Well, because we've already selected our year-end company, it recognizes that as our destination. We're looking to restore from a device rather than from a database. So if we select that option, we just browse again. If I select Add, to our backup location, which it recognizes. And here we have our live company backup that we just took, and we say OK to that. Okay, so we're just highlighting the backup set to restore. Again, we have our two options, the general option, the general prompts, which we've just completed. And if I go to options, what we want to do is overwrite the existing database. Just confirm, okay, that it's going to go to the right location. Now, if you notice, it's still remembering the backup file location rather than our new file location. So if I just browse here, we should find our year-end files within the default location. So we just browse to those and overwrite that information. Okay. We're happy with our settings, so we're just going to select OK to that. Okay. And what it's telling us here is that the backup holds a database other than existing year-end database. So what I'm going to do, oops, is right, okay, so I'm going to cancel that. I do apologize. Let's do that again. So we're going to restore tasks and restore database. From a device, I selected files. It's all in your notes, so you won't make this mistake because it will be in your files. We're looking to restore our live company backup. Okay, to our database year-end 2015. We now go to the Files option on the left-hand side. It does take a minute or two just to load up this screen. And it's still having a little think. There we go. Okay, and again, this is where we just check that it's going to go to the right location. So we need to just change that to our year-end database that we created. So our year-end. And when we go to options, we want to overwrite the existing database, close existing connections, and say OK. OK, so it's actually going to start doing our restore. This time the progress is shown at the top right-hand corner as it starts restoring. And again, it will take a few minutes to actually restore that database to the new location. It's taking a long time, so bear with me. Now we can see the progress going through as it counts through the percentage completed. And when it gets to 100, we get the notification that the restore was successful. Okay, so as I say, I think I might have frightened a few people there by messing up in the first instance. It is actually quite a simple procedure, but if you're not confident, then if you have an IT department or an IT company, they can do that for you. Okay, so let's go back into Sage 200. Okay, we see we have the two companies. If I go into my year-end company, into system administration, it doesn't always need to do this, but sometimes it does. We just need to update that database within Sage 200 just so that it reflects the up-to-date SQL files. So we just go back into system administration, into our companies option, right-click on our company and select Update. Again, this will just take a couple of minutes as it reads all the SQL database tables and ensures they're in the current version for your Sage 200. Okie dokie. We just say OK to that. I'll just minimize that. Let's go back into Sage 200. Select our year-end company. And now if I go into Accounting System Manager, Accounting Periods and Maintain Accounting Periods, we will see that this reflects exactly the database that we were just working in, with all of month 12 closed in all of the modules except the Nominal Ledger. And this company would just stay as it is. We're not going to go back into this company and change anything. It's just a replica there, so we can refer back to it if we need to for any auditing purposes. The rest of the processing will now continue within our standard live company. So if I go back into that database, we're now in a position to complete our year end. Now the first thing I want to point out is within Accounting System Manager and Accounting Periods, you do have this option, Maintain Accounting Period User Permissions. Now within here is where you determine which users, and if I just edit myself here, can do what for accounting periods. So can this user add, amend and delete periods? Can they open future periods, close periods and reopen closed periods for each of the modules? If you go into Maintain Accounting Periods, okay, highlight a period, if that change period status is grayed out so you don't have access to it, it's because you don't have the right permissions within this Maintain Account Period User Permissions option. So you just need to get your administrator to give you access to that, and you'll then be able to process your year end. Now if I try to close month end down, month 12 down for the Nominal Ledger, if I change period status, it's telling me that I can't do that because I still have awaiting postings. So it'll help you capture any information before you actually do the processing. So all I need to do in this example is go to my Nominal Ledger. If I look at my current waiting postings list, I will see the list of waiting postings, and I can just select Update Waiting Postings within this screen. If I just say OK to that, it will update those postings into my Nominal Ledger, produce our report, which I'm just going to close down. And if I refresh, we now have no current waiting postings. I can now go back into Maintain Accounting Periods, select Period 12 for the Nominal Ledger, and change the period status. I just say OK to the prompt, and it's as quick as that to close month 12 down. However, it just finishes in process. Okay, I'll just close that option down. If I go back to Maintain Accounting Periods, you'll see that this financial year is still in December 2015. We've closed down month 12 for the Nominal Ledger, but if I look at future financial years, that's next year is still in the future. There's another process that we need to run to move the future financial year into the current financial year, and that's run within the Nominal Ledger and Period End Routines, and there's an option there, Year End. Before it allows us to actually run the year end, you'll see the OK button there is grayed out. We have to confirm that we've printed our final trial balance, our final financial statements, and basically anything else that we want to produce as part of our year-end management accounts. I'm just going to say now OK to that. And this process will now close down the year for 2015 and open up 2016 as the new financial year. On the handouts that I've provided you, the 200 year and procedure notes actually talks you through all of the screens that we've just been through, and it also gives you some ideas of the reports you might like to be producing as part of your year-end procedure. Once it's actually completed that process, it's telling us it recommended that you check and make sure the accounting periods for the next financial year have been correctly set up. Would you like to amend accounting periods? I'm inclined to suggest you say yes at this point, and it will take you into your Maintain Accounting Periods screen that we were just in. And if you notice now, this financial year covers January through to December 2016. However, all the periods are still future, and you do have to manually open up the periods for the new financial year. So period 1 for our sales ledger, now when we change period status, instead of saying do we want to close the period, it's asking us if we want to open period 1. So I'm going to say yes to that. That will open up the sales ledger, and it will move any deferred postings from the sales ledger dated January 2016 into the current postings. The same is true for purchases. Change period status. Yes, I want to open that. the cash book, change period status, and yes, I'd like to open that. Stock control, and finally the nominal ledger. Okay, we are now ready to process period 1 transactions within our live database. If you, in your accounting system settings, if you have allowed more than one period to be open, you can open as many periods as you want to within your new financial year. So if you've got sets that you can open 3 accounting periods, you can then just select period 2 and open that, period 3 and open that by selecting change period status. Okay. So the actual closing of your year end, the month 12, closing the year end and opening the new year is very, very straightforward. And as I say, the training notes that I've provided will talk you through that process and give you screenshots to talk you through what needs to be done and when. Now, another thing that I'd like to go through as part of the year-end process is transaction archiving. It tends to be something that is run as part of your year-end processing. It doesn't have to be saved to the year-end. You can archive as frequently as you choose to do so, but it's an ideal opportunity as part of your year-end process just to tidy up the data and do a little bit of housekeeping. Now, transaction archiving is available within all of the modules, and I'm going to show you some of those options. The first one I want to show you, however, is within the nominal ledger, and within period end routines, there's another option there called account maintenance. Now, for those of you that are on version 2013 and earlier, the year-end routine would automatically ask you if you wanted to remove profit and loss transactions from that financial year. From 2015 on, it's been removed from that process, and it's now a manual selection within the account maintenance option. Also, up until 2013, nominal transactions were automatically archived as they reached the age that you selected that you wanted to keep those transactions for. So if you had within the nominal ledger you were keeping transactions for 12 months, when that transaction was 12 months old, it would automatically have been archived. Now, however, it's again within the account maintenance option within period end routines. So to actually archive your standard transactions, you just tick that you'd like to archive transactions and you enter an archive date. So if I were to put my date here as the 31st of the 12th, 15, okie dokie, 31st of the 12th, 15, it's now going to look at the time that we want to keep transactions for. So in my example, 12 months, 1 year, and anything that is older than the 31st of the 12th, 2014 will be archived. Also ask if you want to remove the profit and loss transactions from the previous financial year. And again, I'm inclined to suggest you do this for 2 reasons. First of all, it will keep your data sort of neater, so when you're looking at your profit and loss accounts for sales or anything else, you do only see the current transactions for the current financial year. Also, you don't have to keep the historical transactions because we've made that backup company, so we can always refer back to that company if you need to view those transactions at a future date. So if I were to just say OK to that, it's now going to go through all of my profit and loss accounts, and it's going to remove those transactions. So we're now ready with a clean sheet to run transactions within the new financial year. Okay, it's going to take a few minutes on my system here. I'm running on demo data. If you do process a lot of transactions, this may take a little bit of time. There you go, wasn't too bad, but do be aware that it has to read every transaction to remove it in the first instance. So if I just have a little look at my nominal list and go down to my profit and loss accounts, if I now have a little look at the transaction inquiry, you'll see we have nothing there because we've chosen to delete those transactions. If you're not comfortable with running that process, you don't have to run it, and you can keep transactions for as long as you choose to do so. I'd also recommend that once you've closed down your year-end and you've opened up your new year, which is what we've just completed, within the Nominal Ledger reports and your financial statements, you run your trial balance for the first period. Okay, and you'll see that you've got your opening trial balance, so that's your starting position for your new financial year. Okay, we'll only have your balance sheet accounts on there because at the moment we haven't posted anything else within the new financial year. Even if you have processed transactions, they will have gone into deferred postings. So when you've run your month 12 and you've done your year end, any deferred postings will have been moved into the current waiting postings file, ready for you to update within the new financial year. So if you run your opening trial balance, then you update the waiting postings, you're then starting to get the picture for your new financial year. Okay, so let's have a look at some other transaction archiving processes. So within sales order processing and SOP utilities and file maintenance, we have two options in there. We have archive SOP orders and returns, and we have purge archived SOP orders and returns. If we just select archive, you select a date that you want to archive all orders and returns up to. So bearing in mind we've just closed our 2015 financial year end, you mostly want to keep transactions for a few years, so maybe we'll select 31st of the 12th, 2012. So we're keeping 3 years worth of transactions. It's asking if we want to retain orders with unrealized profit. These are orders that have been sales orders that have been fulfilled. However, we haven't received a purchase invoice to complete the realized profit for those orders, and hence the cost of sales posting that will have been generated will be your estimated cost of sale postings. So I just tab off there and I say OK to that. Do I wish to continue? I'm not going to say yes, but if you were to just say yes to that, it would then move those sales orders from your live file into the archived SOP transactions file. It's still very easy to view those orders. Within sales order processing, if I just go to my sales order list, the sales order list will only show us those in our current file. However, if I just go to excuse me, sales order inquiries, we can view sales orders, and you've got a list of current orders, and you can also refer to your archived orders. So just a new tab there, which you can access archived orders, so you don't lose them completely. However, within our file maintenance, as I mentioned, you do have a purge archived sales orders and returns, and this process will do as it says. It will basically remove archived sales orders, which means then you are deleting them completely from your system. Again, you just enter the date that you want to purge all orders up to, and then you would say OK, and that would delete them from your archive file. And it does warn you that this routine will permanently remove sales orders and returns from the SOP archive file. Within purchase order processing, utilities and file maintenance, you have exactly the same options available to you. So you can archive purchase orders, and then you can subsequently purge archived orders from Sage 200 completely. For each of our financial modules, okay, so if I start off in the sales ledger, okay, and we go to period end routines within the sales ledger, again, you have account maintenance within there. Now, this is asking us to select what kind of accounts that we want to archive transactions for. I am prepared to bet that basically everybody uses open item type accounts. So if you select archive transactions for open item accounts, you select the date that you want to archive transactions up to. So if we were to put in here 31st of December 2015, what Sage will do is we'll look at each individual sales account, and if you're keeping transactions for 3 years, it will archive fully allocated transactions that are dated up till the 31st of the 12th, 2012. So it will step back from the date you enter there, the amount of time that you want to keep transactions for, and only archive transactions that are fully allocated, dated up to that particular date. If you do have balance forward or automatic allocation accounts, again you can select to run period maintenance for those type of accounts. Once you say OK, Sage will run through all of your transactions on all of your accounts, and it will move transactions to the archive folder. And again, it is so easy to view those transactions within our customer list. If I were to just select an account and select Inquiries and Transaction Inquiry, okay, you see we have our two tabs. So current will be all the transactions that are dated up to the 31st of the 12th, 2012 in my example, and historical will be anything that's older than that. So you still have full visibility of those transactions. Now, if you do want to remove transactions from the archive file, that's actually done within your Sales Ledger Utilities rather than period end routines. So Sales Ledger Utilities, File Maintenance, and you have an option there, Purge Transactions, which will actually talk you through either a single account or all accounts, and you enter the date range that you want to purge the data from and to. There is an option to delete absolutely everything from the archive transactions. I'm not sure that that's such a good idea, but it is an option. And as I say, that will then delete the transactions completely from your archive transactions for your customer accounts. You have exactly the same routine within your purchase ledger available to you. So within this purchase ledger, period end routines, we have account maintenance, and through there you can archive your transactions. And within your purchase ledger utilities and file maintenance, you have your purge transactions option. The cash book is slightly different. Okay, so within the cash book, and other transactions, there's an option there to delete reconciled cash book account transactions. You select the bank account that you're wanting to clear down. You select the date that you want to delete transactions up to, the 1st of the 12th, 2011 maybe. And when you select delete, it will do just that. It will delete all of the transactions that are dated up to that particular date, but it will put one figure, one total figure for the total of those transactions that it's removing to ensure that your cash book still balances from your reconciled and unreconciled transactions. So slightly different for the cash book. And I would suggest only selected users have access to these options within their menus. Okay. So we're now ready to process within our new financial year. We've closed down our month end. We've created a new backup company that's just going to sit there that we can refer back to if required. When you get your auditor's adjustments coming in, sort of within however long that takes for that to be processed for yourselves, when they come back with those adjustments, we're now in the new financial year in the nominal ledger. So within the nominal, we do have an option within Enter Transactions that's called Previous Year Journal Entry. And if you go into this, you enter the details just like any other normal journal. So Auditor's Adjustment 2015. You give it a reference, so Auditor's Adjustment 2015, for example. The journal posting date defaults to the last day of our last financial year, so we don't need to change that. And then we just select the accounts that we want to be adjusted. So we just select an account, enter a debit or credit value, subsequent account, and a debit or credit value. And you can enter any number of transactions within this journal. Now, if you were to adjust any profit and loss accounts within this journal, the way that Sage will process that transaction is it will adjust your accumulated profit for the last financial year. So it's not going to affect your P&L for the current year, but just the brought forward figure for your accumulated profit. So 100. If I just post that, go to my nominal list, go to the top here, 03100, and transaction inquiry. You can see there we have our auditor's adjustment prior year journal that's showing us a transaction within that particular account. So even though, like I say, you may feel I've not completed my financial year end as I need to wait for my auditors, you can still process that year end within Sage and then make the prior year adjustments when you get those figures. Okay, so a little bit of a recap. So we've created a new company for our year-end data called year-end 2015. We backed up our live data and we restored that to our year-end company, which we'll keep to one side just for future reference. We've closed down month 12 within the nominal ledger, but then we also had to process the year-end within the nominal ledger period-end routines. That asked us to check our accounting periods, which we went into, and we then opened up period 1 within the new financial year. We've printed off our opening trial balance. You can update your postings, archive any transactions that you choose to do so, and as I say, you're now in a position to start processing the new financial year within Sage 200. So to that effect, all I can say is a Happy New Year, and I hope you all have a very good Christmas break. We'll be doing more webinars for the next year, and as soon as we have the topics for those webinars, we'll be in touch and invite you to those sessions. So thank you for the time this morning, and have a good break.